On January 12, 2003, at approximately 11 p.m., a 40-year-old Larry Groves, who resided alone with his two dogs, was engaged in a phone conversation with his friend Sandy Smith from Mississippi. The two had only been conversing for about 10 minutes when a loud banging was heard at Larry's door, accompanied by an angry voice demanding entry. Concerned, Smith inquired about the identity of the visitor, to which Larry responded that he would manage the situation and would call her back in 20 minutes. However, Larry never made that call, and he subsequently vanished without a trace. On January 28, Larry's mother, Wanda, reported him missing after discovering that no one had heard from him for several weeks, and he had not been attending to his thriving antique business. Upon investigating his residence, authorities found no sign of Larry or his dogs. The house was in pristine condition, with no items missing or out of order, a fact confirmed by his mother, who searched for clues during Memorial Day weekend in May, as well as by his sister, Pam Spence, who also examined the home for any overlooked evidence in April. Then, on June 18, approximately 5 months after Larry's last known communication, his neighbor, Dick Shaliel, observed that the peach tree in Larry's yard had grown excessively, with branches extending over the property line. The ripe fruit that fell to the ground was attracting bees, which began to swarm Shaliel's dog whenever it was let outside. Mildly irritated, he decided to trim the overhanging branches, at which point he made a disturbing discovery: the interior of the house was infested with large flies. The exterior siding of a window in Larry's residence appeared to have been painted black. He now understood that the crows, which often congregated on the fence, had been feeding on the insects present. Disturbed by this realization, Shallow promptly contacted Durrell Bennett, the property owner. Durrell was the father of Larry's late partner, Tom, who had succumbed to a heart attack in 2001. Larry had been residing in the home since he was 17, following Durrell's transfer of ownership to Tom. After Tom's passing, ownership reverted to Durrell, who assured Larry that he could continue living in the bungalow indefinitely. Inside, Shallow and Bennett were confronted with a foul odor, initially suspecting it to be rotting meat in the refrigerator. However, they soon deduced that the smell might be emanating from the crawl space. Together, they moved Larry's desk and lifted the rug, uncovering the trapdoor to the crawl space. There, they discovered the severely decomposed body of Larry Groves. The intense summer heat had caused such extensive disintegration that determining a cause of death was impossible. Larry's family, Wanda Groves and Pam Spence, were horrified by the news, realizing they had been in close proximity to Larry while searching the home for clues. After further discussions with friends and family, the Indiana State Police were able to identify their first and only suspect in the case, the man who had appeared at the door on January 12, 2003. On June 18 of that same year, the day the body was discovered, law enforcement took a man in for questioning. Detective Don Curl, who was involved in the investigation, characterized the suspect, whose identity has never been publicly disclosed, as cold and calculated, maintaining his composure and not reacting to provocations. The interrogation concluded with the suspect remaining silent until the arrival of his attorney, despite having informed the police that he had already disclosed all pertinent information he possessed. A 2007 article indicated that law enforcement had not engaged with the individual since this initial interview in November 2006. The FBI crime lab in Phoenix determined that the hair and blood samples collected from Larry's body in the crawl space did not definitively match the individual suspected of the murder. However, a year later, Don Curl suggested that additional evidence might be available for testing. In the months following Larry's disappearance, his neighbor, Fred Holdman, reported observing trucks frequently arriving and departing from the residence. He did not consider this unusual, as Larry often drove a truck loaded with antiques, making it a familiar sight in the neighborhood. Authorities later learned that the suspect they interrogated utilized a 40-year-old truck to transport antiques for sale to dealers based in Michigan. In the years that followed Larry's death, law enforcement appeared no closer to apprehending his murderer. To friends and family, the identity of the perpetrator seemed evident, yet justice remained elusive. Larry was described by acquaintances as someone who elicited strong opinions. People either liked him or did not due to his straightforward demeanor and pragmatic approach, while also being recognized as a reliable individual. Larry, known for his willingness to assist others, was partnered with Tom Bennett, who was approximately a decade older and had imparted extensive knowledge about antiques to him. According to their mutual friend, Sandy Smith, the couple faced challenges in gaining acceptance within their community in Lakeville, Indiana. Larry's more effeminate demeanor and less confrontational nature meant that he often bore the brunt of the harassment directed at them. Sandy's remarks have prompted some online investigators to speculate whether Larry was a victim of a hate crime. Additionally, it has been observed that the individual responsible for Larry's death must have been aware of the crawl space beneath the house, a detail that even his mother and sister seemed unaware of. This line of inquiry has led to questions regarding the character of Dean Bennett, as it was evident he was aware of the trapdoor's existence. Thus, the reason for his silence remains unclear. Another theory circulating online suggests that the perpetrator may have had an accomplice to assist in the crime, potentially ambushing Larry upon his arrival at the door. This could account for the DNA evidence found on the body not matching the primary suspects identified by the police. Furthermore, many have raised concerns about the fate of Larry's dogs, which were never found. Dean Rauch, a reporter for the Luna Echo newspaper in Lakeville, has been vocal in criticizing the local community for their apparent indifference towards Larry's case and the pursuit of his killer, attributing this lack of concern to homophobia. He remarked that there would be significant public outcry if the victim had been an elderly woman or a young girl. Yellow ribbons may still be prevalent, yet it appears that the general public has largely moved on, which I find disheartening. Nearly 2 decades after the murder, the case of Larry Groves remains unresolved. Leah Hickman, a 21-year-old student of broadcast journalism at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia, had aspirations of becoming a television news reporter. At the time she went missing, she was residing with her half-sister, 25-year-old Jessica Vickers, in an apartment on 8th Avenue. Leah had previously attended Ohio Valley Christian School before graduating from Christ Academy in Point Pleasant. She was well regarded by her peers and enjoyed television series such as Friends and Arrested Development, as well as spending quality time with her family and friends. Leah was last seen on December 14, 2007, by her half-sister. That evening, Leah logged into her MySpace account and subsequently called a friend to inform them that she was heading to McDonald's, with the receipt for this visit later discovered in her home. Jessica Vickers had her final conversation with Leah that night while Leah was washing dishes, during which she shared details about her new university schedule and her academic performance for the semester. Leah appeared to be genuinely content with her life and her studies. The following day, December 15, Jessica returned home to find Leah's keys, purse, and car still present, but Leah herself was missing. Her employer, Dress Barn, reported that she had not shown up for work that day, a behavior that was highly unusual for her. As attempts to contact her proved futile, the family began to grow increasingly concerned, with Leah's father, Ron Hickman, particularly affected by her disappearance. His daughter, Ron, lived an hour away in Point Pleasant but traveled with his sister and a preacher to search for Leah's residence. Leah was Ron's only child, and they shared a very close bond. On Monday, December 16, 2007, a missing persons report was submitted to the Huntington Police Department. Law enforcement and search teams scoured the area, while Dress Barn offered a reward of $10,000 for any information regarding Leah's location. A week later, on December 21, just days before Christmas, Leah's body was discovered concealed in the crawl space beneath her apartment building, wrapped in plastic. It was determined that she had been murdered, having died from strangulation. The crawl space of the apartment complex could be accessed through the communal laundry room and from each of the 4 units in the building. 2 of the units were vacant, while Leah and her sister occupied the third. The 4th unit was rented by a man who had a verifiable alibi, confirming he was out of town at the time of Leah's murder. Initially, police had a suspect in the case, whose identity was not disclosed to the public. They indicated that they were in the process of gathering evidence to build a case against this unnamed individual, believing that the crime was not random but rather committed by someone familiar with both the apartment complex and Leah. Numerous tips regarding Leah's murder poured into the Huntington Police Department, and friends and family distributed flyers throughout the city in search of information. The weekend before Christmas, Dress Barn closed its doors, displaying a sign indicating their closure. In recognition of their former employee, the organization took the initiative to cover the expenses associated with Leah's funeral. Trace evidence collected from the crime scene was dispatched to Phoenix, Arizona, for DNA analysis in 2008. With results returning in 2009 that unfortunately provided no conclusive answers. During this period, law enforcement officials indicated that they retained additional evidence and intended to utilize it as technological advancements occurred, with the hope that it would eventually yield answers for Leah's family. Over the years, numerous members of the police department have reassured both the public and Leah's family that her case remains active and has not been closed. However, it is evident that progress has significantly diminished. Many online investigators have voiced their criticisms regarding the investigation, expressing dissatisfaction with the efforts demonstrated by the Huntington Police Department. Speculation abounds both online and within the local community, particularly regarding the involvement of Jessica's ex-boyfriend, who allegedly held Leah responsible for Jessica's decision to end their relationship. It is claimed that he and Leah had a contentious relationship. Additionally, there are persistent rumors suggesting that Jessica may have assisted this individual in concealing the crime, with claims that the plastic used to wrap Leah originated from either Jessica's workplace or that of her ex-boyfriend. Nevertheless, these theories lack any supporting evidence and appear to be mere conjecture. In the years following Leah's murder, her father maintained a monthly meeting with Lieutenant John Williams for updates on the investigation. Despite Williams' retirement, he and Ron continued to communicate. In a 2019 article, Ron Hickman recounted how his daughter left a lasting impact on those she encountered, noting that even in recent years, her memory persisted. Individuals continue to approach him to express how impactful Leah was during her lifetime. In an interview with NBC News, he remarked that she made a significant impression on people in a remarkably brief period, stating that one can only imagine the impact she could have had she lived a full life. However, despite an ongoing police investigation, the murder of Leah Hickman remains unresolved. The Whitehall mystery is recognized as one of the most striking and peculiar cases of the 19th century. It commenced on September 11, 1888, when a right arm and shoulder were discovered on the muddy banks of the River Thames. Initially, it was thought that a medical student had placed the arm in the water as a prank, but as the months progressed, it became evident that a far more sinister situation was unfolding in London. Known as the Whitehall mystery, the discovery of dismembered female body parts scattered throughout the city sent shockwaves through the British public in the late 1800s. This case is now associated with the Thames Torso murders, which, like the Whitehall mystery, remain unsolved. On October 2, less than a month after the arm was found, another body part was uncovered. Workers engaged in the construction of Scotland Yard discovered a parcel containing human remains. The torso of the woman had been located in a 3-month-old vault that was part of the cellar, carefully wrapped in cloth, possibly a black petticoat, and neatly secured with string. Despite the meticulous packaging of the torso, it was evident that the individual responsible for the dismemberment lacked skill, as the body appeared healthy and well-nourished, confirmed by police. A surgeon discovered an arm last month, leading to the belief that the torso had been placed at the site after September 29, the last date workers were present in the cellar. The close timing of the arm's discovery and the torso's finding incited panic among local residents, raising concerns that the perpetrator might remain at large. On October 17, 2 weeks later, a reporter, accompanied by a trained dog and a laborer, uncovered a left leg that had been severed above the knee and buried near the construction site. Despite the passage of over a century since the initial discovery of her remains, the remaining limbs and the victim's head have never been found, and she is yet to be identified. Following these gruesome findings, authorities dismissed any links between the dismembered Jane Doe and the notorious serial killer Jack the Ripper. The coroner for Westminster commenced an inquest into Jane Doe's case, determining that she was of considerable stature, well-nourished, and approximately 24 years old. It was observed that her uterus had been removed and that her right arm had been detached by someone possessing anatomical expertise post-mortem. At the time of her death, the victim was clad in a branch satin dress, which had been produced in Bradford and was 3 years old. Additionally, some newspaper clippings found within the torso were from the Echo, dated August 24, while the date of another publication, the Chronicle, remains unknown. Although Jane Doe's cause of death could not be definitively determined, it is believed that she did not die from suffocation or drowning. The estimated time of death for the individual is believed to be between 6 weeks and 2 months prior. She appeared to be a relatively healthy person, and there were no signs indicating that she had given birth during her brief life. Jane Doe is characterized as having fair skin and dark hair, and it is noted that she was not accustomed to manual labor. Several potential identities have been proposed for Jane, although none can be confirmed with certainty. Initially, she was thought to be a young married woman who had left her home in Lewisham on August 20, 1888. This unnamed woman was 23 years old, tall, and had previously expressed suicidal thoughts. It is believed that she may have taken her own life, suggesting she is likely not Jane Doe. Another possibility is that Jane was a woman named Emma Potter, whose mother came forward in September 1888, fearing that the body belonged to her daughter, who was 17 years old and described as having weak intellect. Emma had left her home one day and never returned. A police surgeon confirmed that the details provided by the mother matched those of Jane Doe's remains. However, this lead has ultimately remained unverified. This case stands as one of the more gruesome unsolved mysteries of the 1800s, with both Jane Doe and her assailant still unidentified. We invite you to share your theories and speculations in the comments below, and please consider liking this video and subscribing to support the channel.